1, 2, 3.
Victoria, 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 Victoria.
All right. All right, Blaze. Here we are again. All right, so we had a pretty lively episode yesterday with Big City Bear. We got going pretty fast, said a lot of things at the same time.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of the way it works for the three of us together.
we were good timing it.
We can't stay on a subject for too long, so we all try to get as much talking as we can before it switches.
Right, so I'm gonna try to slow down a little and try to get back to the basics here, but on that video, we had a new bear comment, yellow-eyed canine bear, great name. He commented and he said, he made the good point that, we were talking about what Owen was famous for, and he made the point that although he did a lot of stuff, nothing about Owen's past life is as important as what he is doing since he committed his life fully to God and Jesus and the Logos and Bertaria, which is absolutely true, and that's why we're here talking about him today. Also, Yellow-Eyed Bear, if you watch this, I've watched a lot of Owen's old podcasts, just on YouTube, and I know there's a lot of great ones that old Blazy Bear here should watch. So if you can think of any that would be specifically good for a young Gamma Delta Bravo bear to watch, we would appreciate you recommending them. We're going to subscribe to unauthorized TV soon, so we can just go back and have access to all the podcasts and all the other great content. I don't know if we'll do D Live. I don't know if we have the bandwidth here to support watching a live podcast, but that would be fun, and I hope that we can.
What does Bravo mean again?
Well, that's a good question. The social sexual hierarchy, this whole spectrum, I don't understand it fully. I have an idea where I fall in it. I was just being kind of facetious, because you have a bit of the Delta, which is I see them as kind of always trying to be helpful and just pitch in wherever they can to the cause. And then the Gamma, we talked about them. Gamma obviously has some developmental self-conscious issues. And the Bravo, that's a good question. Any feedback we can get from the Bears would be good.
But Bravo's different than Beta?
Bravo's different than Beta. It's not really derogatory. I don't think Beta's in it. Beta's only if you want to just have two, Alpha and Beta. Mm-hmm. But there's really a lot more than just that. Owen Benjamin refers to himself as a Bravo most of the time, even though he's having to act as an Alpha most of the time. Does that make sense?
Sure. I feel like you can fall into both categories sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. It's just a good way of summing people up if you observe some of their dominant character traits. And Big City Bear had some questions. He posted a comment he asked, is there like a typical way to do a bear meeting? And of course there's not an established way for bears to meet and interact. We would just hope that God and the Logos would guide the activity.
Yeah, you would think if it's a divine situation, then anytime those meetups do happen, that they would play themselves out as they should.
And everyone would more or less let the Spirit lead. And then what was the other question? Is there a bear directory? No, I'm not sure. I think Owen is has a website about the bear trail.
We're kind of putting together one right now, slightly, in a small way.
Well, in our
it's
small
just-
community.
Yeah.
Now we know Lappish brown bear in Sweden.
We're not trying to
And-
compile a list per se, are we? Like, we're not trying to have it.
Well, it's just good to know who's in your family and who's in your community.
Yeah.
And Owen, I think, is systematically going to really find out where all over America and the world
I'm
the
sure.
bears are and,
Yeah.
and really orchestrate a real trail.
Do you think all bears should be putting themselves out there, or is it okay for there to be secret bears?
Oh, absolutely. It depends on the individual, how much exposure they want to have, what kind of internet platform, and what kind of interaction they're going to have with the other bears. I'm sure there's hermit bears, and then there's social butterfly bears that just need to interact all the time. But there's nothing wrong with just knowing you're a bear and appreciating the bears. It's not like you have to tithe to anywhere, but you should. If you have anything extra, you should give to the cause, which is the underlying theme of Beartaria and Christianity, is kind of a holy communism, a holy God-directed communism, rather than a humanistic communism. So yeah, as far as a bear directory, Owen's website, and I'll figure out what that is, where he's compiling over the bear trail. And then, yeah, that's all the preliminary stuff. This episode's going to be called The Legend of Owen Benjamin, which will just be me explaining my knowledge and understanding and experience of Owen to Blaze, who has virtually none so far. So, Owen Benjamin was born in Oswego, New York. Maybe he was not born there, but he grew up there. He was very smart. He was ostracized in school for being a little bit smarter than the other kids. So he played a lot of piano and thought a lot of thoughts by himself. He had a very base, very Christian, very bear-like mother. He was very lucky to have that, as did we. We're very lucky too.
Ostracized for being smarter, or ostracized for
just asking too many questions and
yeah,
not
just
accepting just
for quote unquote offending people?
right, just not accepting the narrative that he was given all the time. So, being a smart guy, he developed a sense of humor and became very good at comedy. So good, in fact, that he made his way to Los Angeles, California. I guess he did. He supposedly did it like you're supposed to. He grinded, he waited tables, did a lot of odd jobs. But since he was funny, had the logos, had the spark of true creativity, they accepted him, they promoted him. He was able to do big comedy shows, got really popular. Like, my first memory of Owen is I was just watching one of his stand-ups. I don't even remember, and this would probably be 2014 or 2015. And I just remember being like, this guy is funny. And he gets it. And I appreciate that. And a little later, I think I saw him on Joe Rogan. And, you know, I'm a little ashamed to admit, 5 years ago, I was probably listening to a little bit too much of Joe Rogan. And I think the reason is like, you know, you want something, us young men, we want interesting content that appeals to us, that feels like gravy, but that feels like good, wise, sage advice, you know?
Yeah, I feel like there's nothing wrong with getting little doses of it. It's just like you gotta treat it like any other substance.
But what I'm saying is, the good gravy you can eat as much as you want.
Yeah.
The bad gravy is just, it's non-gravy, and it's not good for you. And I don't even think it's good even in little doses. I don't think people should watch Joe Rogan anymore unless they're watching him as a cautionary tale about how not to think and act and be.
Okay, so you don't think you should watch any Joe Rogan, like even 4
Not if you're looking at just for knowledge or entertainment. No.
Okay.
But anyway,
But as a
Owen
study-
did a long, like 3.5 hour podcast with Joe, and it was very interesting and entertaining. And then something happened, and I don't know all the details, but Owen, his conscience hit him, which had always been there, and he just started speaking out against different things, transgenderism being probably the main one, and probably a lot of different other things. And Hollywood, the backlash, they just came down on him really hard. And I remember in the peripherals of my just understanding the internet, my, just the content I was consuming, I was hearing about Owen's troubles in Hollywood and being like, whoa, this guy's probably canceled. He's going to have to go get a real job now. Or he's going to have to compromise with them to get back in their good graces, which I hope he doesn't. And guess what? He didn't. He went at him even harder and started offending them even more. And so I was just like, okay, more points for this guy. And then he moved out to the country and started raising goats and farming and preaching that this agrarian way outside of Babylon was the only way to satisfaction and a satisfactory relationship with the Creator. And I was like, wow, more points for this guy. And then he started talking about Bertaria and about raising up the heritage of a truly lost, pure civilization, the once and future, serving the once and future King, Jesus, with our lives and building our community and our kingdom around that. And I was just like, okay, don't become more legendary than that. Now is he going to be able to sustain it? And for the past 3 years, he's just gotten stronger. And the thing I was talking to Blaze about earlier is the most important part about Owen is he's the most unfiltered. You have intelligence and unfilterability. If those were 2 criteria you wanted in your internet content, you're peaking with Owen Benjamin. Because he puts himself out there as a consciousness, where he'll say, like, I'm thinking in real time and doing my 2-hour podcast, and as ideas come to me, it's not filtered. I'm going to put them out there. I'm going to feel silly about some of them. I'm going to retract some of them, but at the end of the day, my faith is in God, and I'm not afraid to speak my truth. And he does, and he's open to our observation, open to us being entertained by him. But ultimately, we're analyzing his consciousness as he's battling all these ideas and trying to make sense of them and trying to make sense of the chaos that is popular culture, and think about it and speak about it in a way that we're not quite able to because we are so censored as a people. We have these boxes that we think that we're allowed to speak and express ourselves in, and they're very restricting. And as you can see, this whole YouTube channel is my effort to break out of my self-censorship and speak honestly what I believe. That all making sense?
Yeah, I'm tracking.
So that in a nutshell, I guess, is Owen Benjamin, and I've probably missed a lot of it.
Define Bertaria for us again. So it's just a place, an
Bertaria is in our
idea
hearts.
of truth, of of God, where you're following God, and it's a place outside of Babylon where you can, I don't know,
Yeah,
live
it's
your
like
life-
it's like
live
a
your life-
psychological state
live your life
outside of
in
Babylon.
in-
Does that make sense?
In
Stop.
true instinct.
True submission to the communication of the Creator.
Okay.
Barataria is a psychological state outside the state of materialism and political correctness. It is also a physical state outside of the taxed, consumer, commerce, maritime law world of Babylon. Now that has to be clarified, like we're not trying to get out of all the Babylonic restrictions that we live under. That's like trying to, we're in a relationship with Babylon, like with an octopus.
So that was my question that I was thinking earlier.
It's like we're
Do
slowly
you-
taking off one tentacle at a time.
Do you believe that you need Babylon for Bertaria to exist?
If Babylon didn't exist, either Barataria or if you don't have Babylon, you just have God Himself, or if you have a creation, you have Barataria. But yeah, Babylon exists to be the juxtaposition.
Because
Cosmically, metaphysically, for whatever reason, God made man and God made evil. Babylon is the representation of evil.
So is everything outside of Babylon Bertaria, or is there a middle ground between the two? Like, is there?
Well, that's where you and I are right now, is the middle ground between Babylon and Barataria.
But
Psychologically,
so I'm
and
saying, without Babylon, would we just start off in Bertaria, or would we start off in this middle ground?
in
Where
as
we
much
just-
as you had a childhood where you were loved and supported in a family, you experienced Barataria. You experienced Logos.
experienced it, or were in it?
What's the difference?
Like, can you constantly?
Like our family, when I was young,
Yeah.
was so solid and fundamental that it was Barataria. And that's the tragedy of the Galloway family. Me and Blaze is I'm the second oldest, he's the youngest. And when our parents divorced, I was in my 20s. How old were you?
Yeah, I think they split up whenever I was like 4 or 3, and then got divorced whenever I was like 7.
Okay, so as you can see, that's a major part of Blaze's psychology. I was a fully developed adult when I had to understand, okay, my parents they're not the unit I thought they were. And so it was very easy for me to accept as an adult. But
Yeah.
Blaze was 4 or 5 when it just became a reality to him that parents don't always live together and love each other forever.
Yeah, well, I never knew that they did, so I think I took it the easiest out of everyone, and I was never upset about it.
But that's also why there's this idealism you don't really believe in now. Is because you didn't experience the pure form of it. And of course, Blaze did have a happy childhood. And in as much as the purity and innocence of his childhood, that's Barataria.
Yeah,
And that's what we're trying to protect in the young.
Yeah, I was in a place that I was without arguments and without fighting as much,
And plus, Owen talks a lot about he has an older brother
so
who
maybe
played a lot of tricks on him and was.
so maybe it was better to be surrounded by arguing and throwing. Having some.
You mean all the domestic tantrums that you had to
disputes.
be around?
I wasn't around them. It seemed like you were around them.
Well, yeah, I was. I guess, yeah, the disintegration started to occur when I was a teenager. But then again,
So that's healthier than not having it.
Well, it's not really easy to say. It's all God's plan. But the more you experience the
That's
love
what
and
I'm saying.
purity of a mother and father in a pure family environment, the more you understand just instinctually what Barataria is. That is what you're trying to create and preserve. Because the family is a representation of our relationship with the Creator.
My second question would be: should censorship ever exist? Is there a time where? it's
Well, yeah,
appropriate?
like if somebody's running around saying it's okay to be a pedophile, and I'm a pedophile, and trying to tell kids that it's okay for them to sleep with adults, you would censor that name.
So yeah, we got to figure out. So it's So it's subjective what should be censored and what shouldn't be, or it's just there's certain things that are outside of God's law. And
It's not
it's clear to people.
completely subjective, but it is relative to the environment. If you got a community of strong dudes and some dangerous element comes in, we're going to be a lot more tolerant of it, and we're actually going to try to reform it and preach to it. But if we've got children running around and an element comes in that is a danger to them, then the standards are going to change real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But
So it really is a case-by-case basis, and that's why you have to have logos in your life to give you discernment.
logos just for discernment. Okay.
Is it tracking?
Yeah, as an idea it does.
Okay. So Bears, I think we're doing good. Slowly coming to the understanding of Beartaria. But if you got anything, any feedback, any videos that you think we should watch, especially any good podcasts that you want to recommend, because I'd love for me and Blaze to sit down and watch a couple and then just comment on them.
Yeah, and if you've got any rebuttals for either of us, please let us know.
Yeah, and in fact, we listened to about 30 minutes of Owen today. It was...
I'd love a good discussion. That's why I like being a part of this. That's the main reason.
Yeah, but
doing this.
remember what was Owen talking about while we were listening? It was just theories. He was just throwing them out there. It was the thing about the subway. He's like, literally, the subways are coming alive and starting to judge these soy boys watching their porn on the subway.
Okay.
And that's hilarious and probably true because
But yeah, the reason why I'm doing this
all
is
existence
because
is animated.
with discussions, I feel like that's one of the best ways in learning to have it get ingrained into your head is when you're actively using it instead of just as an observer and having it be more passive.
Yeah. So anyway, that's good. So Blaze, how are you adjusting to raising chickens and
It's actually super nice.
the media content stuff?
Every day it gets a little more relaxed and my anxiety goes down because I'm not dealing with as many people and different
Do you feel any underlying anxiety that
I feel like too much discussion can create anxiety, and just about anybody. I wouldn't say just about anybody, but most people.
but our kind of discussions?
No, I think discussions are good, but when you're in a controlled environment a lot of times, which I feel like we are more here, since it's our decision if we want to partake in discussions, like go out somewhere, or go or read a book, or be online, or something like that. But I'm just saying, we're on a farm where we're not having to talk to anybody about ourselves. But when you live in the city, working the job, you got coworkers, you hear things all around. Just go to the grocery store. Everyone is, all types of things.
right.
When you're living in a city, you usually tend to partake in what the city has to offer to a certain extent, which is more than what we partake in out here. That's all I'm saying. And that's where that anxiety comes from for me.
But you're adapting to it.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's sucking me in out here. I'm not even having to try to adapt. I'm just falling into place. Is what
And
I'm
on one level, I think when you're in a big city, I don't know what kind of subliminal energies and forces and radiations and toxins or really just bad attitudes all around you.
Yeah, so we're probably subject
Bad
to some
vibrations,
subliminal
there's
things
so many ways
through
to
what
put it.
we read and consume or watch, but at least we're choosing, we get a choice in it more than when you're surrounded by billboards and.
Yeah, and we thought of a funny meme or joke. I thought of it, but Blaze thought it was funny. So it was like a t-shirt or a meme that says, "I wear a mask for chicken shits." And so people would read that and be like, are they the same people that wear masks are chicken shits and they wear a mask so that the chicken shits don't give them problems? But that's not what we're saying at all. We're saying if we do wear a mask, it's because the chicken shit is smelling too strong. Get it? We wear masks for chicken shits.
I think it works well both ways. Like as far as a joke.
But it's a bit we'll have to work with. And what's the other bit Blaze thought of? He thought of a great one of a news guy doing like a outside investigative reporting, and he's like, people are saying these new Juul cigarettes.
Oh, this isn't me. This is Big City Bear thought of this, but it was his idea. But then, yeah.
No, Big City Bear just mentioned that he had heard that the Juul e-cigarette turns you gay. And so Blaze thought, well, what if this guy's out being like, I'm going to find out if the Juul, I'm at a bar, I'm in a gay bar, and I'm going to find out if the Juul cigarette turns you gay. He starts puffing on it, and it literally does become gayer and gayer.
Well, and he uses, it's the joke being that this guy was already probably gay beforehand, and he's using the Juul as an excuse to be himself. He's like, oh, well, this Juul must be making me gay, because now I'm actually...
But by the end, he's like, this is just good nicotine, and he's like,
he's choking on it and then coughing up all the vape.
Yeah.
I think that could be a funny bit.
Yeah. So that's our comedic contribution for today. So that's probably good. We'll see you tomorrow, Bears. Be strong.